Hello guys, this is the Betamax Man. This is a customer's machine. This is a Sony HF600. This was the mid-line unit back in the day. They always had, see, when I was growing up and when VCRs were very popular and they were being sold all over the place, you always had your plain Jane basic cheap model. Then you had your mid-line model, which was more expensive, and then you had your high-end model, which was the most expensive. So in the middle, you could get, with this particular machine, you pay for this is a midline unit. However, it has the ability to do stuff that the forehead units can do, such as slow motion, and it does have frame by frame just by hitting that. But the higher end models would have 4 heads. This is a 3 head. So the 3 head units had perfect pause. They had slow motion. This one had frame by frame. The higher end models could actually go in not only forward slow motion but backwards. But anyway, enough said. This is a midline model, 3 head unit, Super Beta Hi-Fi. Okay, it's got stereo cast. So you could pick up, if you were receiving stereo audio, you can pick it up and put it onto the tape, record it onto the tape. Okay, so we'll let you know what's going on. So the customer had an issue with this. He bought it, and at a thrift store, he plugged it in. He noticed that there was no power light, so he knew it needed a voltage regulator. He installed the regulator, but he said it lit up for about a second or two, and then I think he said it died on him. And so basically, there's no power light. Now, what can be happening is we could have a bad regulator. He could have got a hold of a bad regulator. There are some counterfeit regulators going around right now on eBay. There's some really bad, crappy made ones. You'd want one that was made by Sanyo, because Sanyo made the parts. If you had some kind of way of knowing whether it was like a certified Sanyo part, then you know you got a genuine good part. And that's the problem with ordering them off eBay, is sometimes you can get a hold of a bad regulator. I myself got a hold of a bad regulator. I had bought 2 from a seller, and both of them failed after about a week of use. Well guys, let's do some tests. I'm gonna check for voltages on the thing here. So I think our 12 volts is this pin over here. Well, I am missing a voltage. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like this regulator is any good. Unfortunately, I think he got a hold of a bad regulator. Alright guys, we're gonna put the new, I got the regulator in place. I bent the pins outward on the two outside pins, and what that'll do is hold it in place until I'm ready to solder it in, which now I am ready to put in. So let's just, let me get this thing soldered in. And let's just do that. And I'll show you the old one here in a minute here. To see if maybe he might have got a hold of a bad one, is what I'm thinking. I'm also moving around. I don't want to put too much heat in one area. You want to get the heat on and get it off as quickly as you can, because you can burn the regulator out by applying too much heat. There's a risk of doing that. And I'm just reheating it just to get a nice even flow of solder around the whole entire perimeter. Okay, so it's the power supply has been completely recapped. Now I've also took the regulator out. If you remember, we had no voltage on some of the pins, so I believe it was one of the 9 volts was missing and the 12 volt was missing. So yeah, this thing's been completely recapped. There's all the capacitors that we replaced. every cap in that power supply has been changed. I've also took out the other regulator. Now the regulator was missing a voltage. And I know our 12 volts was missing, and our 9 volts were not there either. So this thing should power on. If it doesn't power on, then the problem is more than likely going to be either there might be a problem still in the power supply, a component that we haven't fixed, or it could be a problem with one of the main boards. But usually my instinct is telling me that it's that regulator, and let's hope that my regulator that I put in was good. I mean, it was supposed to be a genuine certified Sanyo part. So alright, let's see what happens. Okay, so we now have power line, but why is our okay. Well, we have power now, and what I done is unplugged it because this thing was acting, behaving quite strangely. The switches kept being activated. What I'm going to do, and there was something I do want to notice here, okay? So here's something I want to note, okay? Before I even started working on the power supply, I noticed that this thing had threaded up to about here. And so that's kind of weird. And then I just unthreaded it, you know. But let's just thread this thing manually. Now there's some switches and stuff that will need to be cleaned, I'm sure. But let's just go ahead and run it through the motions manually because we do have power, but this thing is just behaving and acting quite strangely, to be honest. So I've never had them act like that before. So okay, we're gonna go ahead and unthread it. What I'm thinking is going to see, it wants to have it wants to load the cassette, so we need to take the cassette housing switch. We need to take that out because I think the switches are dirty and causing some issues there. But we do got some problems here that I can see, and you can see how weird it was behaving, and I'm wondering if there's a problem on one of the circuit boards. What could be happening is our system control board might have a problem. But there's switches that it wanted to activate the. Why this thing wanted to do that, I don't know. But it did power back up. So it was losing. We lost. So on this regulator here, we didn't have 12 volts, and we didn't have our 9 volt. So both the 12 and the 9 volts were missing from that regulator. And this was a new regulator. I've gotten a hold of a bad batch of regulators before. Sometimes you do get a hold of a bad batch, unfortunately. And that's just the sad part of it. So we got it to power on. We just need to figure out why the switches are malfunctioning. So I need to get some cleaner, spray some cleaner into the switch. I might need to just get some sandpaper, and but I'm gonna go ahead and spray some cleaner down in there. Now, one of the capacitors, I think I'm gonna have to put back in the cat power supply, because one of the voltages, one of the capacitors was a 16, no, it was a 6.3 volt, 6.3 volt at 3300 microfarad, and all I had was a 25, so I stuck that in there. So I put the blue 6.3 volt back in, because I'm wondering if that might be some of the reason why it's acting a little strange, because if certain areas get too much voltage, it can do strange things, so I don't know. Anyway, but let's get this plug back in. Alright, let's plug it back in. I've got the cassette housing disconnected because I don't want it keep trying to insert tape. Okay, so as you can see, we now have a power light. We now have a light coming on there. It's reset itself. Okay, and it's not acting any strange or weird way, so that's good. So we're gonna plug the switch back in. So the minute I plug this back in, it starts throwing a fit. So that switch is activated. Alright, let's see if we can get... let's get a tape in here. That switch, I did clean it, so... Play. Well, one of the VU meters is a little off, but that's the recording, that's not the machine. Alright, let's plug in. I'm gonna stop it, and I'm gonna hook it up, and we'll plug it into the TV. That's not a very good picture, is it? Trying to remember where the tracking is. There it is. Well, I think we got a head clog or something. No, we don't. There we go. Well, that picture quality is not very good at all. So we're gonna probably clean the heads here, and we'll get it so it'll look good. Well, I'd say it's working. we are going to do a cleaning and take care of some of the switches. But we brought it back to life. And again, I've never seen a video head look that way in a Sony Betamax. The way it should look, it's just different. The head disc is obviously the same, but what's not the same is the top here. They've got an arm that basically just barely touches the tip there, but this is the way that I'm used to seeing the setup. This is the setup that I'm used to seeing, and where you've got this plate here, and oh, that's weird. This thing's froze up. Must have got moisture in it, because this is frozen. Yeah, don't matter. Anyway, but that's what they look like normally, and that's what this one looks like. It looks like an NEC, really, or like a Sanyo or something. That's what it looks like. Forward, back, we'll clean the heads on this thing. Okay, well, we got more problems because it doesn't want to eject. It does not want to finish the eject cycle, so something else is going on with this thing. The reason why I've unplugged it is because I hit eject and it starts to eject and then it stops, and then the tape wants to come out. So the tape wants to come out early. So we've got some control problems with... See, I always seem to get these damn things that have more than one problem. It's like every time I repair one of these damn things, it's one problem after another. It can't just be a simple repair. So let's just go ahead and we're going to manually take the cassette out. I'm going to unload it. I think it's got a problem with the loading mechanism here. I think there's something wrong with the clutch mechanism. One of the gears is probably split and broke, which is causing the weird, because it will actually start to unload, but then it won't. So we can load it just fine. And now it won't even finish the loading process. It wants to just continuously turn, and I think one of the tape sensors is... I think the tape in sensor is not working right. I think that sensor right there has went completely open, because What it does is if it senses that there's a leader, it'll forward through the leader, and then when the leader is not showing anymore, then it'll stop. Yeah, so I loaded it without a tape. And now it'll play. So, but if we go to hit eject, okay, that's interesting. There's obviously something going on. Yeah, something's going on here with the solenoid too. It's threaded with the tape in it. Play. The heads are clogged. This tape's been mangled. And we got a clogged head again. There we go. The old thumbnail trick. I learned that from 12-volt vids. I seen him do that and I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. So then I started doing it. Of course you don't want to do it to a tape you care about. But yeah, Jane Fonda, she was always into that health stuff. Alright. So we don't have rewind, but we may now because I moved the reel, the supply reel, I turned it back and forth. So let's just see if we get rewind now. That was something else we weren't getting. Nope. It wants to go into stop when I hit rewind. So, here's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm thinking that tape sensor is not working right. So I think the coil has went open. So what I need to do is do a test. I need to test that coil, see if it's went open, because, and when I say coil, I'm referring to the magnet, the tape in sensor, which is basically just a magnet, but it detects the end of the tape. I think that's why it's not rewinding. Because we have forward, we just don't have rewind, and it stops because it thinks it's at the end. We'll also do a real table motor service on this thing as well, but I do gotta find out why it's not ejecting. So let's see if it'll eject. See, it doesn't want to eject. It wants to go about halfway and then wants to go back. So we gotta find out what the hell's going on. Well, guys, this will be the end of part one. Part one, we did manage to get the power supply fixed. And we also got it so that it will play back tapes. It'll also fast forward, but it will not rewind. And one of the reasons why I believe it's not rewinding is because I think that tape end sensor, I think that coil has went bad. So the tape end sensor, if it goes bad, then I think that's why it thinks that the tape is at the beginning. So that might be an issue, and that might be why it's not rewinding. But it could also be something going on with the reel table motor. Could be a gear that's not working right on that. I mean, it could be a broken idler gear, you know. It could be that the yeah, I won't really know this until I really get in there, but we'll have to wait for next weekend, because this weekend's pretty much at an end, and next weekend we'll do part 2 on this, and we'll pick it up and we'll do that. You know, with the eject mechanism, yeah, I think there's something going on with the clutch motor assembly. So there's something going on there, because it starts to eject and then it stops and wants to go the other way. So and then if I load it without a tape, sometimes I can get it to eject just fine. So that's why without a tape and it's ejecting fine, that's kind of like what makes me think that there's something going on with one of the gears. Because when it's under a load, it doesn't want to work properly. But when it's under a load, then it goes so far and then stops. And then the solenoid engages, and then it wants to eject the tape before the tape is unthreaded. So we might have a switch that's there's a switch that activates when the tape is finished threading. So it could be a couple different reasons that I'm thinking of that it could be why this machine's not ejecting, and the tape end sensor is probably why it's not rewinding. Could be that the tape is also sticking to the head drum. The head drums tend to get really shiny, and the tape tends to stick to the drum, and that can actually cause it not to rewind. Also, we might have idler motor that's starting to we might have a problem with the idler motor. It could be idler gear that's cracked. It could have a crack in the supply reel. I mean, it could be a number of things, but really I'm just trying to think of the reasons why it's not doing certain things. So will we get this thing fixed again? Yes, absolutely. It will be working again. Is it going to be 2 or 3 videos? Yeah, probably. This doesn't seem like I get ones that, you know, just has one problem, or a simple, easy problem fix, and then it's done. It's out the door. No. That usually doesn't happen with me. I usually get stuck with the machines that have a whole bunch of problems. I do gotta talk to the owner and see if he wants to put that kind of money into this. I've got another customer that's waiting on me to, I gotta finish working on the SL5000.
You guys remember that. I was going to start working on that, get that fixed, because the owner doesn't care that he's going to spend a couple $100 getting it repaired. He wants it fixed. So we got to get that going too. I've got tons of projects, but again, I only work on stuff on the weekends because Monday through Friday I work 40 hours a week, you know. So it's something that I do on the weekends for fun, you know. And I've had people ask me before, hey, would you fix mine? Yes, I will. Okay, I will fix anybody's beta machines. Sometimes they're not fixable, and sometimes they are. It's not 100% guarantee, but you know, most of the time I can get them fixed. Why? Because I have a boneyard that I can pick parts off of. So, you know, when you're the Betamax man, you have to have a shit ton of parts. Anyway, but we will get this thing fixed. We will bring it back to life, and we will get it back to the owner as soon as we can. We're also going to do something about this really scratched up, dull looking window here. We're going to put some Novus on it and get that all Novused up and get it looking better. So stay tuned for part 2, because part 2 is coming. We're also going to do part 3 of the SL5000. Also, there's another couple more machines that I plan on doing. I've got an industrial beta SL, I think it's a 323 that we're going to do. It's a industrial machine, like I said, and it's the original beta 1. It only records in beta 1, and it only plays back in beta 1, but we're going to take a look at that and get that one going, because the industrial machine is one of my personal machines. I think there's another customer that might be got another machine. I think he had a HF600 that he was thinking about having me fix. So yeah, we might get to see another 900 on my channel. So if he decides to have it repaired. So anyway, but yes, I do fix machines for other people. So the answer is, will I work on your machine? Yes. Is it going to be fixable? Well, most of the time, but sometimes not. You know, I don't want to give you guys false pretenses, you know, like, I want to make sure that you guys, you know, I'm 100% honest with you, and you guys know that, okay, we'll take a look at it. Sometimes it can be fixed, sometimes not. You know, and it does take me a while sometimes to repair them, because I do work 40 hours a week, so the weekends are going to be something that that's the only time I have to really work on them. So, anyway, but yes, we will do a part 2, and I've rambled on long enough, so we're going to end the video now. So this will end part 1, and we will pick back up on this in part 2. This might be possibly a 2 or 3 or even 4-part video, depending on what else is needed. But right now, one of my main issues is that it won't eject, and when it's under a load. So, and number 2, the rewind is an issue, because you have to be able to rewind, right? I mean, you can't just play a tape and then have no way to rewind. So, yeah, so we got eject and rewind that we're going to cover in another video. So, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.